Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the TinkerTribe podcast. I am your host, Greg Dowd. Tonight, I am joined with a couple of guests. This is Louise and Ryan Milleman, and they are from the YouTube channel Forgotten Ways PMA. And I recently got to meet them at the Self Reliance Festival, and they have some really interesting stuff going on. They are living off grid and currently building a castle out of an old grain silo. So, welcome to the show. Thank you for being with me tonight. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, doing good. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time tonight to come on to my podcast. So, tell me a little bit about how you guys got started on this journey on, what got you to the point where you're moving your family onto a piece of property off grid, and you decided that you're gonna make a castle out of a grain silo or grain silos.
Yeah, well, I would say it's been a long time coming of always wanting to, be more self-reliant and like less reliant on systems, government, like all the things. But I would say it really pretty much started out as like our activist work, like noticing like the ways of the world that we're not in alignment with the way that we wanted to live our life, and like for me, it started out with like just noticing all of the problems with like the food system and how everything was like being sprayed with toxins and poisons, and everything was genetically modified to resist glyphosate and Roundup. And I started going down this rabbit hole of like our food supplies and like, oh my God, this is crazy, which opened up this door to like medical stuff as well. Like we lived in California at the time because Ryan was actually stationed there. We're not from there, just so everyone knows. But disclaimer. But Ryan was stationed out in California, and there was these bills coming down the pipeline of like, really wanting to force all these children to get vaccinated. And if they weren't, if they wanted to go to school, like all these exemptions that used to exist, like the religious exemption, like things like that were being taken away. And like, we never really had any plans to put our kids in school anyways. Like we know we'd always homeschool, but like, it still just felt so like tyrannical and like just really overreach of the government, and like between the food and the medical system and like all of the other systems, like we started being like, hold on a second, like this is not how we envisioned like living our life, So I would say that's really where it like all started. And that was like 10 years ago, where we really kind of like started pulling away from like different systems. But he was still plugged into the military. So like we still had to kind of, play out that 6 years that he had signed in for. And then as soon as he was done, we were like, not only are we getting out as fast as we possibly can, not that he didn't love serving the country and all the things, but like, we just weren't in alignment with it anymore. So he got out as soon as he could, and we sold our house. And then we basically started like traveling and trying to figure out like what we were going to do, because we didn't really know what we were going to do. We just knew we didn't want to do what we were doing. Right. We just knew we didn't want to be a part of that. So we're like, let's go figure out what we want to do. And that's kind of where it started, I would say. Like,
yeah, I guess it's been like a quest for like more freedom. Okay. Like not just your like standard freedom, like Luis was saying, but we wanted to like have everything on our own terms. Like I didn't want to rely on anyone for my water or what they're putting in it. I didn't want to rely on anyone for my power that they can shut off at any point. I mean, you see it all over the country now. Texas is shutting down their grid when it gets too cold because it can't handle it. California shuts off your power because there's fires now, like all this stuff. And it's like, I don't know, when you have, and I'm not like, it sounds bad, I'm not like a control freak, but like when you're providing the like necessities like for your family, it feels really good when it's in your own hands.
Right.
Yeah.
So did you guys kind of come to this realization about kind of like the food system and kind of how all that worked? And did you guys kind of come to that together as a couple, or was it kind of like one person and then you kind of helped the other person along?
No, it's been good. We've been really in sync on like our journey through everything. So it's been really cool. I know a lot of people, yeah, like the husband or the wife will think one thing and the husband's like, that's crap. I'm still going to eat my McDonald's. I don't know. You have these like huge, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, we were pretty much in sync. We've been like, yeah.
We've evolved together. Like,
yes.
And it's funny because we met in college, like drunk and freaking at bars, like barely even remember meeting each other, you know? And it's like over the years, it's like how we look back at that and we're like, it's so funny how you know, the people that we become on this journey, but we very much kind of evolved together. And I mean, I would say like, yeah, like we did kind of like come to each other with different things. Like I remember being the first person to talk about Monsanto and, you know, GMOs and Roundup and glyphosate and all the things. But then even with the whole medical stuff, I remember going to Ryan when I was pregnant with our second baby and being like, I don't know about these vaccines. Like, I'm not really sure about it. Like, what do you think? And then he went down the rabbit hole and then he came back to me and was like, no way, we're not doing it. And I was like, well, I haven't really like, and he's like, I did enough research to know we're not doing it. And I was like, okay. So like, you know, like we might start on one path, but then the other person like finishes the path and we just keep going down the same path. So I feel like that's kind of been like our journey, which is good.
She did make fun of me for prepping a little bit today, but
such a prepper.
Oh yeah, so that so that was kind of like, hey, why are you saving all this stuff or whatever?
Yeah, like he'd be like super like, oh, the bug out bags and the this and the that. And I would make fun of him a little bit, like, okay, like I was on board with a lot of stuff, but for that stuff, I was like, you're just being ridiculous. Like, what do we need a bug out bag for? Like, you know.
She came around though, but yeah.
I came around. I'm like, man, nowadays, I'm like, really glad you got those bags, babe. Because you never know.
So you guys said you were living in California. You decided to sell your place. So how did you determine like where you were gonna move and put down roots at? Like, how did you figure that out?
Oh man, that was
like a
5-year journey.
5-year process.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we traveled. We were nomadic for all of those years. We traveled in an RV for a while, back in like 2016. Then we moved to South America.
So we really had this because we were so. Yeah, so we actually had this whole like, we kind of went this opposite route of like, you know, like F America type thing, because they were poisoning our foods, they were poisoning our children, they were, you know, like, I don't know, we started thinking like there was something wrong with our country and it was so corrupt and blah blah blah. So we naively thought that we were going to travel the world and we were going to find a better country.
Okay.
And so we actually went down to Costa Rica. We spent like 45 days there. We thought we were going to move to Costa Rica because we're like, oh, Pura Vida, like everything's organic, everything's perfectly grown. And like, you know, like what you see online or what you see, like you think what Costa Rica is. And then you get to Costa Rica and you realize that actually they spray more Roundup than like 3 times the amount of Roundup than any other country in Central America.
It's like and their food is over the highest user of glyphosate in Central America.
Yeah, like they have these little organic communities, but like all of Costa Rica is not Pura Vida. So we find ourselves coming back to the States and we're like, well, maybe we'll go here. And we're like literally traveling in our RV this whole time, like trying to figure out like where we're going to go. We had like, one thing I missed about our traveling was like growing food, because even when we lived in California, we lived in a cookie cutter neighborhood. Literally I could stick my hand out the window and like touch our neighbor's house. Like it was like one of those neighborhoods, but we grew so much food. We like, our whole entire yard was like just fruit trees, cantaloupes growing in the front yard. People had to step over it when they're walking down the sidewalk, like pomegranate bushes. Like, I mean, we just grew a lot of food. So being on the road was kind of one of those things where I was like, I really want to like put down some roots so we can garden again. So Ryan built like a little greenhouse for me that went on top of the RV.
Oh, so, wow.
Until we got to the Canada border and we were trying to cross, and we realized that like our worm bin, composting bin that was in our RV and our plants that were growing were like, oh, we can't come into your country with this stuff. Okay. So we were like figuring out like.
It was funny. I mean, we had worm composting bin, RV, a greenhouse on top, like.
Oh wow.
We were like trying to like
solar.
You guys had like a mobile spaceship almost.
Right.
Yeah, so we were doing the whole like, you know, Costa Rica came back, we went up to Canada for a little bit, you know, obviously we didn't land in Canada, which is great, but then we some friends of ours were like, you know, we're going to move down to South America, and we met them through activism as well, and they were kind of like looking for the escape that we were looking for, and they're like, we're going to buy some land, you guys want to go in on this with us? And it was a beautiful property. We'd never been to Chile. We'd never even been to South America. And we're like, yes, let's go. And they're like, well, we'll pay for half of your ticket to get down there so you can go check the property out if you want. Like, we'll cover this. And we're like, don't even bother. Like, yes, sign us up.
So we literally took all our money that we had, invested it in a property with people
that
in a country that we've never been to. Yeah.
Really?
And that was our first.
Yeah.
And that was the first
Wow.
off-grid experience we had, because we went down there and we had 5 acres, and they had like this big, nice house on the property. And then they had this little tiny cabin, and we didn't have as much money as our friends did. So we got the tiny cabin because they invested more.
Okay.
But we took that, and Ryan, I say we, but it's really Ryan. Like that was the first time he was able to actually like convert that entire tiny house little thing that we lived in into a fully functioning off-grid. We learned a lot. We did the gray water, black water system. We did the solar.
And the guy that we moved there with, it's cool. You kind of pick up, I guess too, in our story, we've like in different countries or different places or traveling, we've always stopped and like picked up knowledge from people. So we've like accumulated knowledge. So the family we moved to Chile with, he was an electrician. He didn't know solar so much, but just the fact that I was able to, I don't know, I was on him every day. Like, let's rewire the cabins. Let's do this. So like he was teaching me kind of some knowledge there, and I was applying that to like the solar, the more off-grid side of the house. But it was cool. It's just cool because I can see in our travels how we like learn different things at different times and kind of pieced all that together eventually here.
Wow, that's really courageous that you guys were like, okay, well, let's just go all in and let's go into this community and do this thing. So how did that play out? I guess you're no longer there, so how did that play out?
It didn't.
Yeah, it's hard in a community. Other people with kids, different parenting styles. And then at the end of the day, we both had kind of different ideas for the property. So it was like, well, we want to do this. They want to invest a bunch more money to it. And we're like, well, let's hold on there, killer. It was a bed and breakfast. So they wanted to dump all this more money in building more things. And we're like, well, let's get through a season first and see how this goes. And they're like, well, if you don't want to do it, we're still going to do it. But then, I don't know, things just got messy across the board. Things got messy. So we were like,
yeah, because we only invested like a small percentage of what the overall investment was, because they just had more than we had to give. So at the end of the day, when we were like, this isn't really what we wanted, they're like, well, this is what we're going to do. And like, we were already there. So we're like, we kind of felt like stuck. We're like, okay, so how are we, So we realized that we didn't really want to be there. We stayed there for 8 months, and we traveled a lot during that time. We went to go see a whole big spread of Chile. Like, we went to the south, to the north. We went all the way up to the Atacama Desert.
Chile is epic. Obviously we've never been there before, but after going there, like,
it's one of the most places
really epic country.
Yeah, like from mountains to beaches to, we didn't go down as far as, the Patagonia type area. That was like really far, but like the huge spread of just the different landscapes and everything was really pretty. But yeah, it didn't really play out for us. Like, we didn't make it. We made it like 8 months with the family. Like, we were just butting heads. And so we realized that we needed to leave while we're still friends. We're like, let's go before we like want to kill each other.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We came back to the States, and we were like, this is the kind of like our journey too. It's like, then we started traveling more because we wanted to go see the world at that point. Like, we got this like huge taste of like traveling. We'd already been to like a few countries, and like, so we decided we wanted to travel more, and we were just looking for ways to be able to do that. So we started doing little businesses, and over the 4.5 years or so after we got back from Chile, 3.5 years, we just traveled like full time. And so
really,
we took we didn't have a home base. Like, we live in the States for a little while. When we were here, we either lived in a camper, or we would buy like a little fixer-up house, and we'd fix it up and we'd put it up for rent, and then that would like fund our travels.
So that's actually how we first came to the greater Chattanooga area.
Yeah.
Is we came here is more so an investment. It was good. The house is like, I could get a cheap house and rent it for a decent amount. So we would, like Louise said, we'd buy a fixer-upper, fix it up, go travel. So it was like a perfect hang out in the U.S. for a little, live in this house, fix it up, and then we go travel more.
Go see the world. Yeah. And we really wanted to, like, on our travels, we wanted our kids, because our kids were like 2 and 5 when we moved down to Chile. So like they were still really young. And we wanted them to experience culture. We wanted them to know that the way that we live in this one tiny country, in this huge big world, is not like the only way to live. So we would go and do like really cultural travel experiences. Like we'd go to India for like a month, and we'd go stay with like a family in India, and we'd go to their temples. We'd go to their festivals. We'd go to their like we'd go do like really, really cultural things, and then like we'd come back, or we'd go, you know, like, I don't know, we our kids have been to like 15 different countries with us, and like just we were like, why not go, you know, but different places: Mexico, Cuba, Costa Rica, Ireland, or not Ireland, Scotland, England. I don't know, we've been to a lot of places, but that stopped being easy to do when the whole COVID thing happened. And that's really where we ended up having to settle down. Like we were like, after we realized we could still travel if we wanted to during that time, it wasn't going to be as feasible. And we also saw the agenda that was unfolding, and we were like, okay, it's time to buy our land. It's time to plant some roots and just figure out, like, you know, what our next steps. Okay.
So Billy in the chat says awesome. So okay, so you decide, I guess that was around when the lockdowns started happening, was like, hey, we got to find somewhere where we can put some roots down.
Yeah, well, I mean, like we were actually on our way back from we were flying back from Cambodia, and we were on our way back to the States. We kind of were making our way back anyways, but we were flying into China, and we were flying into Beijing. And I remember very specifically when I was booking the flights, this pop-up thing came up. It was December of 2019, and the first case had happened in November in Beijing of China. So it had been going on for a month already at that point, and a pop-up came up and said, are you sure you want to fly to this country where there's coronavirus going on? And I was like, check, whatever. Like, just checking the boxes.
Another virus, yeah. From all,
big deal, whatever.
All these other viruses that have been thrown our way, yeah.
Right. So we're like, whatever. So we get in, we land in Beijing on December 25th. It was Christmas Day. And really, we just wanted to go see the Great Wall of China. We didn't really want to spend a whole lot of time in China. So we just made it was like literally like a 1-day trip. It was like on a kind of like a long layover almost. And then we got back to the States, and we were like, it was probably like March or so when the lockdown started happening. So it was like 3 months after we got back to the States was when all the things started unfolding. And like, even from the time that we got back from China to the 3 months of when the lockdown started happening, like I went to Hawaii, we went out to Mexico one more time. Like we still did a little bit of travels during that, but then all the stuff started coming out about locking down and masks and like all this stuff. And we were looking at each other, we're like, oh shit, like what is happening right now? And it was just like one of those things where we didn't know, but we like knew it was like going to be bigger than like, I don't know. We knew there was an agenda behind it, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So you found yourself a little place, and so so after you gathered all these skills and everything, did you find some like raw land? Was it raw, like completely raw land, or was there some infrastructure on there? Like, did you guys have a kind of a plan from like the stuff you had learned previously on how you were going to maybe go about doing this?
Raw land.
It was raw land.
Completely.
Like, couldn't even drive onto the land without going onto the neighbor's property. Like, we didn't have a driveway. We had to cross a creek. So had to put a culvert in and bring in rock. Like, it was, just raw land.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. So did you have to obtain some kind of an easement to get back there, or like, how did that work out?
No, well, we got the driveway put in. Our property goes up to the road, but we just went and talked to the neighbors and was like, hey, do you mind if we take this little dirt farm road to get onto the property until we build our driveway? And the guy was cool with it. So
yeah, once we made the driveway, we could access it to the road, but it was kind of sort of, because that land wasn't ever used to live on before, nobody had made a road down there, even though it did go to the road. So we just had to clear trees, knock them down, and make a path to the actual property And then in the months coming, he didn't care if we used like a little sliver of his part just so we can get on our property. So it wasn't a huge deal. Although he could have, I guess, been a jerk and said no.
Yeah.
So we got lucky.
Wow. So did you have to look for a while to find just the right piece of land that you wanted? Like, how did you come across this property?
Yeah. So also one of my other, I set them on Marketplace a lot. I used to be on realtor.com like all the time. And it was probably because we had a few houses at this point. So I was always looking kind of at the housing market. I like to follow it, like to see what it's at, see what land value's at. So I had been looking for a while and it kind of popped up, and it was a little further out from where we'd ever been. But anyway, I saw that it had a creek and a pond and woods and some cleared pasture already. And I was like, we got to go check this place out. So yeah, we've probably been looking for a little while, but not intentionally looking for this specific land. But when we came across it, it kind of just, everything kind of lined up, and we knew that it was like the right time and the right spot. So
yeah, like we had got land before that. So, after the whole lockdown stuff started happening, we actually bought, 4 acres or so, probably about an hour from where we live right now, from our raw land that we bought. And we were homesteading out there. We had some pigs in the woods. We had our chickens. We had our garden. Like we had a little setup, but it was 4 acres. It wasn't really, and it was in a neighborhood, even though we had acreage, it was still in a neighborhood. And like, we had some incidents happen. Like our pigs got out, and we're like,
our pigs got out in the neighborhood.
Yard. Like people were like knocking on our door, like, are these your pigs? And we're like bringing them like bacon. Like the next day, we're like, sorry about that. Cause then we had to go, like, we weren't really ready to harvest them yet, but like once they learn they can get out, like they're kind of like not, I don't know. So then we're like putting them down before we're ready to put them down. Like it was just a big
bringing
mess.
all our neighbors' pork chops and bacon. Like, sorry.
Sorry, we messed up your pretty grass. Like my pig was hungry. So we knew we needed like more space. We knew we needed like the land that we bought, or like the house that we were living in, the land we bought in that little 4 acres, we knew wasn't our like permanent thing, but we needed something while we were figuring out what we're doing. And he's really, was really into investing in properties. So that's why he was always looking at stuff like investing, fixer uppers, that type of stuff. And then when he saw the land and was like, this is our land. This is not like investment stuff. He's like, this is land that we need to go look at. And so we did, and we put an offer in like pretty much almost immediately. Like, we came out here and we just knew.
Wow. Very cool. So tell me a little bit about, I ran across Louise, an episode you did with Nicole Sauce, and you were talking about how you guys were starting a PMA. Could you explain a little bit on what a PMA is, and why you decided that you wanted to start something like that? You guys wanted to start that?
Yeah. I mean, a PMA is like what we have. It's a private ministry association. So really what we are is, what we're classified out here is as a ministry for our businesses. We're very entrepreneur minded, because like we said earlier, like when he got out of the military, we were like, not only is he never going to go back to work for the military, like we're not going to work for anyone ever again. Like we don't know what we're going to do. We're going to figure it out to just be our own boss, right? And like figure out how to provide for ourselves. So with that comes like lots of just annoying things with the government. And while we were investing in properties, like, we didn't have a whole lot of capital to like buy a lot of these houses. Like we were like robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we're like, and he's like, this is a really good investment. We need to make this one, but we're like, but we don't have it. So we're going to the bank and we're like, come on, like, let us borrow more money. But as an entrepreneur, they want to see like, like multiple years of income. Like it's just a bunch of games that you're playing with the government. And like, I'm grateful we were able to do that, because it set us up for where we are right now. But with that comes a lot of, it's like just paying the government like lots of taxes, and like we were claiming a lot of our money because we were wanting to show that we made more, so they would let us borrow more. And it was just a game that I was tired of playing. So we wanted to go the ministry route, because when you're classified as a 508c1a and you're a ministry, I mean, like you're a real ministry, like, then you don't have to play that game anymore with the government. And that's really what started the path for us, was like tired of playing that game, like looking for different layers of protection for ourselves. And like having a PMA is just one level of protection. It's not like it's like this, guarantee protection for all the things. But like, we do raise animals out here. We do have meat out here. We do have, we have different businesses, and like, we don't want to do business as a corporation or as like a public entity. We wanted to keep it more private and just do more contracts with people. If you want to work with us, you have to have a contract.
Yeah. So the PMA brings it into the private sector versus the commercial sector. So, that way, if somebody wanted to come, like I said, if we had extra meat that we wanted to sell or something like that, they would become a member of our ministry. And then because they're a member of our ministry, then we can kind of, privately sell them. Yeah.
Everything's through contracts. So it's just like we're contracting with each other versus having like these public, I guess it's just less involvement from, it's like protecting yourself a little bit from what the government can come and say, or what other people can, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, basically you're setting yourself up as a ministry when you're doing a PMA.
Okay. So was there, like, did you kind of go down, like, what areas did you find somebody specifically that you were listening to, or things that you were researching on how to set something like this up? Like, is there a specific resource or a book or anything that you read to kind of help you figure that out?
Yeah, there's a guy, I'm trying to think about what his name was. So I was hosting events, even though we didn't live in California anymore. I still had a business there. Told you we're very entrepreneurs, so we have lots of things going on all over the place. Mm-hmm. I still had a business there, so I was flying back to California like every couple of months to go and do events. And I actually was the founder of the chapter president of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce in the area that we lived in. So I was hosting events, and during COVID, I hosted a couple of events. One of them was like COVID concerns, like holistic health symposium. We bring in doctors that were like against the mask, against the vaccines, like all that stuff. One of them was about like speak now or forever show your papers. That was what it was called. About, well, this is a time, you guys, like if you don't do something now, like we're doomed. Mm-hmm. And then one of them was basically it was like taking back California. Like, I don't know, it was something about trying to save California. And I had a guy come speak, and he spoke about this. He spoke about private membership associations or private ministry, like you can call it different things. But he spoke about this, and I was like, this is really interesting. So he actually was running a PMA in California for like a local food store that he was running. And he was talking about how and why it's so important to remove ourselves, in this way. And so I can't remember his name now. I'm going to have to look it up. See if I can look it up.
Is it TJ Mars?
No.
Okay.
If you said it, I'd know, but no, that's not him.
Okay.
I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been going down this route, and the first person I heard it from was TJ Mars when I went to a conference with the Anarchapulco conference in 2020, and I heard it from him, and so he explained a little bit about how that worked and how you become in the private realm and you're getting out of the public realm, and how that could be a protection for you with like a business or some kind of effort that you're trying to do. So yeah, there's a lot in this. Like, there's a lot of things to look into. And when I got to talk to you, Louise, a little bit at the Self Reliance Festival, you were telling me that you guys were working on a process. You found somebody to help you guys with your land and figuring out how you can obtain a land patent for your land. Could you maybe talk a little bit about that and like why you want to figure out this land patent and like what that is going to help you with as far as your freedom and everything?
Yeah.
So the land patents, I think I had a friend send me over a podcast. It's the Alpha Vedic podcast. It's like number 102 or 103 of the episode, if you're curious. But Ron Gibson was on there, and to me, he's like the godfather of land patents. He's been in the law for his whole career, and he was doing some land patents and stuff for miners. So like when they establish a mining thing, they go and get a land patent because it gives them full rights to the land, gives them mineral rights and water rights. So that's kind of the biggest use of land patents currently. But the cool thing is the land patent is kind of tracing back your land to the original patent and getting that patent put into your name. And what that does is right now, like all our mortgage deeds and stuff that we use currently is not full ownership of the land. That's why if you don't pay taxes, they're going to come and take your land. That's why you can go to the bank and say, hey, I want to take a loan out against my land to do something. And then if you don't pay that back, they're coming out and taking your land. So they all have this monetary like interest in your land. So what the land patent does is it goes back to kind of your constitutional rights as far as like the land, like having ownership of the land. If you have a land patent, your land can't be taken by any debts or anything that you owe. A land patent really kind of got brought around so that anybody can actually own land and not have to worry about somebody taking it from them, like the poor farmers or whatever back in the day. So a land patent is kind of like the ultimate protection. Like it gives you full ownership of your land. It gives you full rights to your land. And with a land patent, it's not like if you had a land patent, you don't have to go and ask permission to do anything on your land because you can use the land however you see fit. So it just has a lot of, it's like super powerful. And I got so fired up when I listened to Ron Gibson talk about this that I actually, I reached out to his team and they have different kind of packages that you can buy, and they'll do the research and kind of set you up with all the legal stuff. And then you take that legal packet to your county and you're claiming the land patent. It's like real technical too with all the terms. They're like, do not say you're like applying for a land patent or anything like that. You're claiming your land patent. Like, I don't know. It's all the wording has how they get everyone. But yeah, so it's just like I said, it's just like full ownership of your land where nobody can mess with you. Nobody can take it away. So it's super freaking cool.
It's like, I like what you said about the ultimate protection, because I feel like having the PMA, which by the way, the guy's name is Mike Colombe. I just found his number in my phone, so I want to make sure. Yeah, Colombe. I know I should remember that too, but that's like, to me, like a PMA is like a very low level of protection compared to like a land patent. I mean, land patent's like massively huge, where like just the fact that you don't have to ask for permission. I mean, like, we're not really asking permission anyways, even though before we had a land patent, but just to know that, like, someone could come on our property technically if we didn't have a land patent and be like, you can't build a castle, and like we might be kind of screwed. They might, Yeah.
So. Well, it's very hot topic in my circles right now. Working with a couple, and they're allowing us to use a portion of their land to kind of use that land. We are establishing food for livestock so that we can be able to grow food for livestock. And so, we've been in talks about like how can we do something like you guys have done here. So, looking for resources on that. And when you told me about Ron Gibson, I went and searched around and found a video podcast where he's talking all about this. And from what you guys have told me, that you can go search him out, and he can help you put a package together to submit that to your local guys so that you can get it. I guess you have to get it on record, huh? Like, and there's a certain way in language, like you're saying, that has to be used. Otherwise, you could get some kickback and they give you a hard time.
Right. That's why we opted to go with him, because it is so, like I said, if you word something wrong, then it's not going to have the right outcome. So we kind of went with him and his team, because I just want somebody who knows way more about this than I do to like make sure this is done right. And
yeah. It also can take a lot of time. Like there is a lot of research that goes into it, because you have to know every single owner that's ever owned this land before to make sure that it's
been about a year for us, maybe a little over a year, and we just got our package to take in to the county
like 3 or 4 days ago.
Yeah,
like literally just got it.
Got it.
So wow, congratulations on that. Yeah,
thank you. That's super exciting.
We still have to file it. We still have to do a couple things. It's not fully in concrete yet, but in concrete, whatever, it's not fully done. But but with the amount of time that you would spend making, and you don't even know really what you're doing, you're going to spend even more time doing that. Wasn't really that expensive to do the package, like a few $1,000s, like maybe $5,000 or $6,000 or something like that, to have the whole thing done for us. And we were like, well, that's worth it, because imagine time is money too. And then if you're not doing it right, then you may have to go back and redo your steps. And I don't know. I just think it's worth it. We did the same thing when we set up our PMA. We paid someone to do it for us, because we're like, if these things aren't done correctly, it's all about the way you word every little thing. And it's like, you might think you're doing it right, but then if you're not, it could come back and bite you in the ass at some point. Hopefully it doesn't, but it could. So we'd rather just have someone that knows what they're doing, and they eat, live, and breathe that, and just, you guys do it. Tell me what you need from us, and just you do it.
Okay. Yeah, because when I look, I've listened to a lot of things describing this. And we've talked about it as a group in my local area with our Freedom Cell group. And we've, I have one guy in the group that has studied some of this. But, we're just on the periphery of it. There's so much information to understand that it is very daunting. So I completely agree with you guys. If you can find an expert in it, go with the expert, because I don't know how long it takes to study all this, but it's a long time to figure out all the words to use and how, to phrase everything, because it's a lot of it is wordsmithing, it seems like.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and for sure, like I said, the Alpha Vedic podcast, episode 102 or 103 with Ron Gibson, I definitely recommend that, because he goes into just, I don't know, he's talking about even just how, with what's going on right now, everyone's trying to buy up all the land. BlackRock, they're going to own, in the next few years, they're going to own 50% of the single family homes. They're trying to buy all the land. They want you to own nothing and be happy. And having the land patent is that, you can't touch me, kind of try it.
It's the best
I'm good.
Middle finger to the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a way that we can find some kind of remedy in this whole scenario and take action to actually make a change. I think in the episode I was listening to with this Ron Gibson guy, he was talking about the 3 kinds of people is the person that takes action, then you have the person that just sits by, and then you have the person that looks at the world and says, how did we get here? So it's which one of those people you want to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Matt, maybe changing gears. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that is a really powerful tool that people can, take in their hands. The reason I wanted to start this podcast was to give some solutions to people. So that's a really big one that you guys have found. Tell me a little bit about your building. You're building this castle out of this grain silo, and you're using an interesting material. You're using hempcrete to build this structure, or help to build this structure with this steel grain silo. How does the hempcrete work with that structure, and how did you figure out how to use hempcrete as well?
Yeah, so I did a course through Haven Earth about 1.5 years ago in Texas, and they did a full course about how to use the hempcrete. So we went there and we built this small structure, very hands-on, and it was cool because you had everyone from carpenters there to people who had never picked up a tool, and they're kind of just they kind of walked you through the whole process of building, framing, with hempcrete, you have to build, it's non-structural, so you do build kind of like a traditional frame, whether that's, you build your traditional frame. You can go a little bit wider on your like studs and everything. You can go up to like maybe 24 inches on center instead of 16. So you can use a little bit less wood, but you do still have to have like kind of the structure, the timber structure, for you to kind of build the hempcrete around. And then the hempcrete's like a very unique substance. It's like this oatmeal-y, dry oatmeal kind of substance that like when you pack it down, you kind of put forms on your wall. So you have these 2 pieces of plywood and you shove the hemp in there and you kind of tap it down a little. And then right when you're done filling it up, you can take the plywood off and move the plywood up, and that stays just perfectly how you left it.
Okay.
Yeah, another kind of unique thing is it takes a while. It doesn't fully cure. It takes, a week per inch of your wall thickness. So we did like a 8.5 inch thick wall. And so that takes quite a bit of dry time. But like as the building kind of went up, the structure itself feels amazing. Like, I don't know, it's real sand dampening. It was real cool. Like we were in Texas and it was like still cool in this structure. The hemp actually, like the walls breathe. So that's another really cool thing about it. But anyway, since we had a bunch of people there and a bunch of ladders and stuff and people moving stuff, like somebody took a chunk out of the wall one time, like they were moving something and they just hit this big chunk out of the wall. And you literally could take like fresh hempcrete, you go in there and you kind of just pat it back in the spot that they knocked out, and it's like good as new. So it's so weird. It's so different to work with, but it's really, really awesome.
Wow. So go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, you can go.
So how does that compare with building you were telling me before we came on, is like building in a round structure. There's a lot of challenges with that. So are you primarily using it for like an insulation, or is it also adding to the structure of the building?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, like I said, it's non-structural, but it definitely adds to the structure. Like once it hardens, like fully, you're encasing that wood in this hemp, like in this breathable material. So you're insulating. The hemp is essentially everything, like your whole wall. It's your insulation, it's your exterior, your interior. It's just hemp. Like you can put a lime plaster on the outside to finish it. But I know people that have left just the hemp on the inside just because it looks really cool.
But it's also important to note that the round structure is not, we're not actually putting the hempcrete in the round structure. So the round structure is the silo, and that grain silo is the structure itself. And so we are insulating that with hemp wool, which is different than hempcrete. Then we've built, so like, the post and, because we built one of the silos to be like a 2-story. And like, we put up post and beams and like, milled some wood out here from the property to put that up there, which is like a really cool project. And then in between all these, what are they called? Posts are hemp wool. So hemp wool is different than hempcrete, but the hempcrete will actually be the walls of the castle. Other than the only walls that it won't be are the walls of the grain silos.
Yeah. So the 2 grain silos are on. The hempcrete will be the walls to connect the 2. Then the hempcrete from the grain silos, off each one, we're going to build out and then connect it back. And that'll be all hempcrete. And that'll be the rooms in the back.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, as far as the grain silo, like she said, we kind of took the shell and you have this like waterproof steel shell. And inside I bolted posts and then I ran beams across. So like we have these really pretty, I did like 8x8 posts, like going up, and that was all wood from our property that we milled.
It's so beautiful.
So it's going to be really, really pretty when it's done.
And the brackets that were used to put the post and beams, like hold them
to support like the second story.
To support the second story was all stuff that he put in a forge and like blacksmithed.
Wow.
From this, like this we found this old because like part of our property, like 6 acres of it is just like woods. And so like we really haven't touched much of that, but we'll go back there and walk. And like, I don't know why people like trash cars, or like that you like find random weird stuff in the woods and you're like, what is this big piece of metal doing here? It's so weird. But finding these like little scrap metal pieces and then bringing it back to the bringing it back to the garage and throwing it in the forge. And then he actually made all the brackets and stuff. It's really cool, like inside, but the hempcrete part hasn't actually started yet. It's all like hemp wool is there, the grain bins there, the brackets, the posted beams, all that stuff is up. But the hempcrete will be coming after this baby. Yeah. The baby, once we got pregnant, we're like slowed down a little bit with the project.
The castle kind of got the brakes put on, and we were focusing on kind of building another little tiny home just to give us some more room
for
the baby.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give us a place, because right now we're living in our camper while we're building. And so, I first didn't want to give birth in the camper. Like I would if I needed to, but I just wanted a bigger space, like a more comfortable space to actually have the baby. And then once we have bring the baby into the world, like we wanted to have, I don't know, we just didn't want to be in the camper.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's what I was going to ask, is if you guys started off on the property, if you had to build something first to live, something small to live in, or how you guys started out there. So you got a camper that you're in right now as you're building everything.
Yeah.
Yes. So we started off with, the first thing we put on there was a big shop, like a big garage. Then we had a camper that we moved on here, got that on solar, got that set up. And then we actually scored like a pre-converted shed on one of the properties that we bought. We said we bought a couple properties, and this one had this little mother-in-law suite that they built in this shed. So we had that sent out here, and it needed a bunch of work. So it wasn't like livable right off the bat, but that's what we're in now. So we've now fixed this up, and that's what we're going to kind of transition to.
For baby, who's going to be here in 3 weeks.
Oh, no way. Wow. You're doing 3 weeks. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So the castle, so this is going to be like a legit castle with like the fortress walls and the pillars, and look like a legit like Monty Python and the Holy Grail castle, huh?
Yeah. And we're definitely not going like as extreme as like this massive structure. I mean, it'll still be a good structure with the grain bins themselves are 18 foot in diameter and then 21 feet tall. So there's still like these nice looking pillars. And then, we'll do the courtyard in the front. We're going to do a drawbridge. I'm still working out how to do the moat, because
that's awesome. Oh, and you're putting in a moat. That's so great.
I'm trying to like, come on, babe, we got to keep with the moat. And he's like, well, the moat might be hard. And I'm like, we got to do the moat, babe. We got to do the moat. But like, and even the silos right now, like they still just have that metal or that steel look to them, because they're just steel silos right now. But they will be, like stone will be on the outside of them when they're actually finished. So it's not going to look like a grain silo, but it's going to have, the structure will actually be the grain silo underneath whatever we finish it with.
Yeah.
So it's still going to look very much like a legit castle.
Wow. That's so cool. So, yeah, you guys have some kids as well. The kids like to help with all these, I'm sure there's never ending projects going on. Do you guys get the kids involved with everything that you have going on with building and doing all that stuff?
Yeah. Our kids are like one of the best crews I've had, like to do stuff with. I mean, they're like legit. I don't know. I'll be doing stuff and I'll be throwing measurements at them. They'll be marking wood for me. I come out and cut it. I don't know. Like, yeah, I've had them doing everything from, I don't know. Yeah. Cutting, measuring, drywall, mudding, painting.
Wow.
They do more than I do. They legit do more than I do.
9 and 12 right now. And they're like little gangsters.
That's awesome. Wow, that's awesome.
Like today, we have our oldest daughter is turning 12 tomorrow, so she's technically still 11, but she'll be 12 tomorrow. But yeah, like it's really fun because we're really big into like when you're removing yourself from like all of the systems, like one of the first systems, if anyone's listening to this and haven't gotten their kids out of school yet, like get your kids out of school. That's one of the first things that you can and should do to work towards freedom. But like we really truly believe in like, our kids know how to read, they know how to do math, they know how to write, they know how to do all this stuff, but also like learning real life skills. And we realize like mid-30s when we're sitting here trying to learn the forgotten ways of the past. And that's why we named our PMA Forgotten Ways. Like Forgotten Ways Ministry is what it's named, because it's not just about us learning remembering. It's about remembering. Like this is ancestral stuff that like we have the knowledge, like it's just like been forgotten over the generations. And like we are really big about like, we don't want our kids to be scrambling around like mid-30s trying to figure out how to provide for themselves and live off the land and grow your own food. So like we're pretty big on like involving them in all aspects, and we don't like force them to do certain things, but like we don't have a TV, so like it's not like they can just sit in there all day and watch TV. Like that's not an option. We don't have like, I don't know, like we give them choices. It's like, you can help us today do this, or you can help us do this. What would you like to help with? And so it's not like we're forcing them to do like stuff they don't want to do, but we're definitely like kind of like opening up the doors of like, you've got to contribute in the house in some sort of a way. So here's a few of the options that you can contribute, so they can choose what skills they want to learn, but they still have to kind of like, that's their school. Like their school is to learn how to do some of this stuff. And like, that's huge, learning math and stuff by like, actually
it's like real world math. I don't know. Even today we were doing some like baseboards, and I was just going over like angles. So I was like, okay, this one needs to be a 45. And like, I don't know, we're doing 245s to make a 90. And then, I don't know, it's cool. I don't know. I maybe it's like the proud dad moment, but when I can tell my kids like going down to measuring to like the 16th and they mark it right, I'm like, damn, they just got a 16th.
That makes you really proud.
Yeah. So, and they do a lot with us. They garden, they take care of the animals. I'm envious of the amount of things that they are getting to learn at this age, because I definitely did not learn all that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what better to go into life with, having practical skills that, like no matter what happens, I know how to, build something or, repair this thing, or basically all the things that you need to keep yourself alive on this planet, basically, and
right, exactly.
And you guys said that you were both entrepreneurial, so I'm sure your kids are picking up a lot of your entrepreneurial skills as well. Because kids like to emulate things, right? And so I guess they're kind of absorbing a lot of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, they started their own little business last year. They called themselves the Seed Sisters, and it was so cute. They saved seeds from, we're still learning the whole seed saving thing. So, we had multiple varieties of watermelons. We couldn't really claim a certain variety. Like there were certain things that we were still learning, but the loofah seeds is what they really took off with. And they started out with that. So they started selling them for like $4 a packet. We'd sell them at the Agorist meeting that we would go to. I would post them online, like Instagram, Facebook. And they made like $500 last year or something, like for selling them for $4 a packet. Wow. Like that was a lot for them. And they were so good. Yeah. So they were so cute because they actually made the little packets. They hand wrote, and we're like, why don't you guys type this and print it? And they're like, no. And they like hand wrote every little packet. And it was like directions on how to plant the loofah seeds. And like, I don't know, it was really cute. And then
they actually had a little spreadsheet and everything where they were like checking off when they got sent and when they got paid.
Yeah. And then they would send an email to each person that bought them, so that they would have little videos that told them like just tips on how to grow loofah seeds. So yeah, like it's really cute. And it's like just teaching them how to not have this employee mindset, because I feel like that's why so many people are stuck in their life. They feel like they're tied to the systems because they rely on the financial, like their finances are usually tied in. And that's why most people feel like they can't break free. So it's like, let's start young and be like, don't ever even get connected to that system. Like anybody can make money anytime. Like money is being made all the time. Like you just have to be, creative enough to figure out a way to do it. So yeah, definitely they're picking up some skills, some entrepreneur things for sure.
Now, did y'all have that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, like really young, or was that something that you developed over time, or I don't.
Say,
I've had it. I've had it for a while, which is funny because my parents are very much the employee mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But I had some friends' parents that gave me like the Rich Dad Poor Dad book at a really early age.
high school, right?
Well, I think it was early. Yeah, maybe 13. Um,
Oh yeah,
so
Robert Kiyosaki's book, and he talks about assets and liabilities and all that.
yeah. So I mean, I had some good influences with some other friends' parents that were very entrepreneurial. But yeah, I'd done a lot of. Yeah, I've dabbled in a lot of different things in my life, entrepreneur wise. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I actually like his whole mindset rubbed off on me because I was never really like that. And I remember when we first had enough money, like we had bought a house, and the first time we had enough money to like invest in like a real estate property, and we had like like $20,000 or something. That's more money than we'd ever had before. And we're like, oh, and Ryan's like, what are we gonna do with it? And I was like, well, we're gonna put it in the savings account, like duh. And he's like, that's the stupidest thing you can do with it. Like, what do you mean? He's like, we're gonna buy a rental, and I'm like, what do you mean we're buy a rental? Like, we live in California, like houses are stupid expensive. Like, we already have a house. And like he kind of like convinced me that this was the best path to go on. And I was like so nervous because I was like, I don't know. But with this Rich Dad Poor Dad book, he was like, from high school on, always wanted to have real estate investments, and like, never had enough money to do any of this stuff. And like, even being in the military, like, you don't make any money in the military, like you get all these benefits, but like, I mean, really, you don't make any money. So we came into a little bit of money, and that was the first time that he was like, oh my gosh, like we're going to buy a house. And it's like, that's what started my mindset shift, because I saw what was happening. And like, we did okay with that house, but we kind of got screwed because our the people that were renting from us, they like didn't pay, like there was a whole bunch of issues that we had. So I was like, oh my gosh, what have we done? But it was totally.
Yeah, our first rental house was like the worst case scenario for renters.
Oh really?
They like took us to court to us.
But part of it was because it was California, and they're so like tenant friendly in that state. Like that state's just crazy.
Really tough to be a landlord in that state.
Yes, yeah. It was all protecting the tenants, and the tenants were crazy. Like the guy was like a crystal meth head, was like beating his wife. Like neighbors were telling us all the stories, and we're like, holy crap! But we couldn't do anything about it. Like it was so weird. But yeah, so that's kind of where it started. Where he got me more into that, and then from there on, like when I started realizing, like, oh wow, and then we just started like all kinds of little businesses. Like
yeah, and she took off. Yeah.
And then we were just doing so many little things that we were, like just. Until we landed on the business we have now, which is very, very abundant. But before that, we were always just doing little things to just kind of like live. And we never really had a whole lot, but we had enough to get by. And that's all that we really needed, and then we didn't have to work for anyone else, which felt really good. So
that's great. So do you guys still continue on different businesses that allows you to kind of live the way that you're living now?
Yeah, now it's been weird to transition because now Louise is pretty much our she brings home the bacon. I just mess around on the property all day and build things.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we started a business together. It's just I'm more of the face of the business than he is.
I know, I do help.
We do it together.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started our business with Kangen Water. So we're Kangen Water distributors, and we help people get really good water into their homes, and then like. Because that's, I mean, like it's like affiliate marketing, or I mean, really, it's like network marketing, and like using like personal branding, attraction marketing, using your social media platform. And like I always like to say, it's like we're using the systems that they designed to use against us, and we're like using against them because we're able to create more wealth in our life, which we're obviously taking that and we're like creating freedom for ourselves and helping other people create freedom for themselves. And then we're using these platforms that so many of my friends are like Facebook, blah, like Mark Zuckerberg, blah, Instagram. And I'm like, I don't feel that way about those platforms, because those platforms help me make money. and the money that I'm making on those platforms is helping me build a life of freedom that we're looking for ourselves. So once we started doing that, like all of our other businesses, we didn't really need anymore, because it became abundant enough to where we could provide for ourselves. And like, I mean, at this point, just it's taken off. So it's been really good.
Yeah, I have the same attitude, but you're right. It is a very powerful tool to help you build something that you can become a more sovereign individual with, and build abundance with. And I can't. It was my past guest, Sam Swanson. He does the Slave to Servant band that was at Self Reliance Festival. But he gave a quote from I think it was Prince, and he said, "You can either do the internet or let the internet do you." And I think like if you're spending a lot of time on the internet just consuming entertainment and things like that, that's where it could be detrimental to you. But if you're using it to build something and to build a business of some kind, I think it can be a very helpful tool. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, as well as even still connecting and showing other people what's possible, and showing other, like, I don't know. Yeah, you're giving people, I guess, better content to consume because you're like teaching them something.
Yeah. I always tell people that work with me, I'm like, my goal is to help you go from being a content consumer, which is what most people are, probably 90% of people, to a content creator, and then being able to find your own special message, whatever that might be, and being able to voice that into the world and like share that with other people, and then learn how to monetize it, because that's what it's all about. Like, if it wasn't for business and it wasn't for making money, like, I wouldn't care about these platforms either. But when I actually see what they can create for us, when I'm like, oh, I can work this business and have enough money to buy my land and build our epic castle or whatever, then it's like, yes, please, like, I will do that all day long. It's with intention. And I think also, like, I wouldn't know half the stuff that I know about, all the GMO stuff when I woke up 10 years ago. That all came from the internet, that all came from social media, that all came from watching somebody that I knew, that I liked, and that I trusted, that was putting out this info. And I was like, wait, what? And I went down a rabbit hole. And so social media has been responsible for waking me up. And like, I love the fact that I've played a part in waking so many people up. Like, I have people message me all the time and they're like, because of you, I realized that I didn't want to do this with my kids, or I didn't want to do this, or, whatever. And I'm like, that's what it's all about. Like, not only do we get to use it to monetize, the platform and like, create wealth from it, but also like waking people up to like the global agenda that we're up against. Like, that is powerful in itself,
yeah, ever since I started this thing, that was a big goal of mine, because I was getting into this kind of a black pilled thing, but learning a lot of the information on what's happening. But it's like, what am I going to do with this information? So I'm bringing all this information in. What can I do about it? So what changed for me was like, well, I want to try to give people solutions and try to seek out people that are figuring out solutions as well. So, and then get that out there, because if I just tell like my family and maybe like the people I work with at work, that's as far as it goes. But if I can reach more people, by putting it out online, then maybe more people hear it, and maybe more people figure things out by getting it out there to more people. So yeah, you never know who you're influencing when you're putting stuff out there, if you're afraid to do that.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
very cool.
So thank you guys so much for coming on with me tonight. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day. I know you got the little ones and everything, and appreciate you guys taking the time to come and talk to me. It's been a pleasure to get to know you guys a little better and chat with you on the podcast tonight. How can people find and support you guys with your efforts?
Yeah, I would say, just the regular commie platforms. Facebook. Ryan's not really on that much because he's just not really he doesn't use it as much because, it's more me. That's why he was saying, oh, Louise, it's like I'm usually the face of our brand. But on Facebook and Instagram is probably where we're most active, and it's just Louise Milleman. On Instagram, it's Louise.Milleman. On Facebook, it's just Louise Milleman. And then we do have our YouTube channel, Forgotten Ways PMA. It's just a matter of getting the uploads on there. So we don't post on there as much. Like, anybody who wants to keep up with if anyone wants to watch our project unfold, the castle and all that stuff, like, we post on Instagram and Facebook a lot more. And then when we have a big update is when we'll go on YouTube and post that.
Okay. Yeah, it's fascinating. I was looking at some of the progress that you guys have made on there on that YouTube channel, and it's looking really awesome so far. So,
Thanks.
Yeah.
so thanks
It's gonna be a
again.
fun one.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah,
again
thank
for
you.
coming on and taking your time with me tonight. And you guys are very fascinating. I'd love to have you back on again at some point in the future, and maybe come visit the castle at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
That'd be awesome. We actually might have some sort of like workshop out here with the hemp when we start doing the hemp, where we're going to invite people to come and actually learn how to work with the hemp as well, so people can come out. So
I would love to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. Awesome. Well, we'll keep in touch. So we have each other's contact on Telegram. So, but yeah, thank you for having us. This has been really fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you.
All right. And thank you, everybody out there. And if you got some value out of this, go subscribe to the channel and share it around with somebody that might help out. So, and we'll catch you guys.